Welcome to Module 6 of the Playground Safety and Training. In this video, we will focus on protective barriers and spacing on the playground. Having protective barriers ensures that children not only have fun, but are safe while playing on structures that are elevated from outdoor surfaces. All outdoor learning environments must be fenced in. The purpose of fencing surrounding the area is to keep children safe inside and provide protection from roaming animals or other people outside the play area. Fencing should be at least 4 feet in height in all areas. It will be measured from the interior side and will begin at the top of any surfacing located directly next to the fence and extend it to the top of the fence. It must not contain any entrapments, which is any opening greater than 3.5 inches but less than 9 inches that would allow a child's body to pass through but could trap their head. It must also be free from protrusions. If the fence is less than 6 feet tall, there must not be any object that extends past the outer surface of a piece of equipment that could puncture or scrape a child or entangle clothing. In addition, it must exclude bodies of water and must have a gate that remains secure. Public school centers are deemed to have adequate fencing protection and therefore are not required to have any fence regardless of who operates the program. They do still have to meet Child Care Rule .0600 for spacing and other safety guidelines. Keep in mind that the fencing that encloses the outdoor space must also meet Child Care Rule .0600 in regards to spacing. All playgrounds must have enough space for each child to have 75 square feet of space. If child care centers are licensed for 6 to 29 children, there must be 2,175 square feet of space area. If child care centers are licensed for 30 or more, then providers must have space for at least the minimum of 30. The number of children on the playground cannot exceed the number of children the space will accommodate at 75 square feet per child. Centers operating exclusively during early morning or evening hours, for example 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., do not have to meet the outdoor play area requirements. In some areas, there are local zoning ordinances that require larger space requirements per child than the minimal state requirements. It is the operator's responsibility to make sure that all local city and county ordinances are met. To be eligible for more points and program standards for the issuance of star-rated license, you will need to meet additional outdoor space requirements. For more information, check out Chapter 9 of the DCDEE Child Care Rulebook. Elevated platforms should have guardrails or protective barriers depending upon the height of the platform and the age of the child that will have access to the piece of equipment. Guardrails prevent inadvertent or unintentional falls from elevated platforms. Barriers prevent attempts to climb over, around, or through the barrier. Elevated platforms intended for both preschool and school-age children, children under 2, preschool children ages 2 to 5 only, and school-age children only have different requirements. The critical height for the platform with the guardrail is measured from the top of the guardrail to the ground. The critical height for a platform with a barrier is measured from the platform surface to the ground. You should remember that the critical measurement for platforms with guardrails and protective barriers differ from the general method of determining critical height on the other playground components. Another rule change is that for equipment used by children under 2, the maximum height of the platform or play structure is no greater than 32 inches, regardless of the guardrails or protective barriers. If equipment is used by children 2 and older and the elevated surface is more than 20 inches and no more than 30 inches above the underlying surface, a guardrail is needed. The minimum height of the top surface of the guardrail should be at 29 inches high, and the lower edge shall be no more than 23 inches above the platform. If equipment is used exclusively by children aged 2 to 5 and the elevated surface is more than 20 inches and no more than 30 inches above the underlying surface, a guardrail is needed. The minimum height of the top surface of the guardrail should be at 38 inches high and the lower edge shall be no more than 23 inches above the platform. If the equipment is used exclusively by school-aged children and the elevated surface is more than 30 inches and no more than 48 inches above the underlying surface, a guardrail is needed. The minimum height of the top surface on the guardrail shall be at 38 inches and the lower edge shall be no more than 26 inches above the platform. If equipment is used only by children under 2 and the elevated surface is more than 18 inches, a protective barrier is needed. But remember, it cannot be more than 32 inches for the youngest children. The minimum height of the top surface of the protective barrier should be 24 inches. If equipment is used by children aged 2 to 13, the elevated surface is more than 30 inches above the underlying surface, a protective barrier is needed. The minimum height of the top surface of the protective barrier should be 29 inches high. If the equipment is used only by children ages 2 to 5, the elevated surface is more than 30 inches above the underlying surface. A protective barrier is needed. The minimum height of the top surface of the protective barrier should be 38 inches high. If the equipment is used exclusively by school-aged children and the elevated surface is more than 48 inches above the underlying surface, a protective barrier is needed. The minimum height of the top surface of the protective barrier should be 38 inches high. That completes Module 6 of the Playground Safety Training. For assignments related to this video, please refer back to Module 6 in Moodle. If you have any questions, please feel free to visit the Playground Safety website at www.ncplaygroundsafety.org or visit our resource page on Moodle.